You are listening to Skin, Earth, Vitality, the podcast where ancient wisdom meets modern vitality. If you are seeking to reconnect with your innate vibrancy, you're in the right place. I'm Emily Davis, a seasoned holistic esthetician and herbalist. Join me as we unlock the secrets of ancient skincare practices, explore the beauty of seasonal and nature-based living, herbalism, and true holistic well-being for you and the broader ecosystem. This podcast is brought to you by Stratum Aesthetics. Head to stratumaesthetics.com to find curated skincare, body care, and other wellness products hand-selected by me. Now enjoy the show. I've been saying it for years. Lifestyle is the key foundation for healthy skin. And this is why I created my newest program, Reclaim Your Radiance. This program is all about getting that foundation into place, learning about lifestyle habits, and then the actual implementation of these lifestyle habits to secure your glow up. And I'm so excited. It's going to start running this January 6th for 8 weeks. It's a self-led program. So I will put the link in the bio so that you can learn more. In the meantime, this interview that I have for you today is such a special one and really speaks to everything that I believe about lifestyle, which is why I have gotten so close with Jolene Hart. I met her on the internet several years ago because I reached out to her asking if she would come to a book club that I was hosting. We were reading one of her books, and she so graciously said yes, and I've just been so excited to get to know her more over the years since then. Jolene is a health coach certified by the Institute for Integrative Nutrition and founder of the pioneering beauty coaching practice, Beauty is Wellness. She is a former magazine beauty editor and the best-selling author of 6, yes, you heard that right, 6 wellness books, including Eat Pretty, Ignite Your Life, and Well Rested Every Day. At the heart of Jolene's work is her desire to empower readers with the ability to shape their lifelong beauty and health with simple tools and habits. Her private coaching looks at many areas of life, from stress and hormones to diet, digestion, healthy personal care products, all of this to help clients look and feel their best from the inside out. I know that you will enjoy this interview. I'm so grateful you're here, and I will see you on the other side. Please remember that the information I share in this podcast is based on my professional and personal experience. It is intended for educational and informational purposes only. It is not individualized skincare advice, nor is it medical advice. I encourage you to take charge of your own health decisions and listen to your body, seeking out the resources and professionals that best support your wellness journey. Well, welcome, Jolene. I'm so grateful to have you here. I'm such a big fan of your work. I found you through the Eat Pretty books, and I just gobbled them up, and I've bought every book you've ever written, and I love everything that you do. So I'd love for you to tell us about yourself, what you do, and how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. I think from the very first time that we connected, we were on the same page with a lot of our approaches to beauty and well-being and living our daily life. So it's always a pleasure to get to chat. But yeah, my story is not a direct one. It's not linear in any way. Right now I am a health coach and an author with a focus on beauty and well-being and women's health. So I started out after college really from the point of view of a writer. So I knew I wanted to write, and I worked in newspapers for a few years, magazines. I was a red carpet reporter for a few years for a magazine. And I finally worked my way up to what I really thought was my dream job as a beauty editor at InStyle magazine. And the job was great, but I had some serious skin issues during my tenure there that had started before, but I had cystic acne and I had eczema. And all of a sudden, when you're in the position of being a beauty editor, you feel like you're supposed to be the face of that magazine. You're supposed to represent kind of knowing what's going on in beauty and how to take care of your skin. And it was really, it really shook my confidence in my position. And I started to just kind of seek out any dermatologists, any experts, estheticians, facialists, different beauty lines, and try everything to try to find a root cause and a solution to the skin issues that I was having. And I got really good at covering up a lot of those skin issues, but I started to realize that healing my skin went much deeper than the products and the topical treatments that we were talking about in the magazine, that I really wanted to explore. Again, that connection of nutrition, of lifestyle, and how that was affecting my skin. And I knew that was going to be more helpful and more healing than what I was doing topically.
Mm. Okay, I think that's so cool that you got to work at In Style. What a dream job. Was that high stress?
It was high pressure and long hours for sure. And I'm sure those things were exacerbating the skin issues that I already had. Knowing what I know now and looking back at my lifestyle, where I spent most of my time directed at my career to where I wasn't prioritizing cooking any home cooked food for myself, having balanced meals, eating fresh food. It was more like what I could find at the vending machine or what was cheap that week at the grocery store, like living on like a entry level budget, that kind of thing. So knowing now, looking at how I structured my life, it's no wonder that I had all those skin issues. But I also grew up with a mom she was very holistically minded. She's a nurse and she started a health food co-op when I was a young child. So she always kind of led me to understand that food was very connected to the way my body felt and even my skin and the way it looked. But then when I did have skin issues and sought help, from dermatologists, sought a fix, I was always assured that there was no connection there and that no, don't go down that avenue. Don't ask those questions. You won't find anything. And in my gut, I always felt like that can't be true. It doesn't make sense to me. So as a journalist, I think it was that combination of the personal problem, being a journalist and wanting to look deeper and ask more questions, and then being in that beauty editor role and thinking, this is what I want to immerse myself in. I want to understand this topic so that I can share what's important with the people that are reading this magazine, and really step into that place as an expert. That really pushed me to go on the path to where I am today.
Wow. And so did you go on to do your health coaching certificate as you were there, and that was kind of like part of your healing journey, or was that separate?
It ended up being separate. I ended up deciding to leave the magazine to become a freelancer, and at that point decided to become certified as a health coach just so I could be a better health journalist, right? Like I thought it would inform my writing better. And then when I started taking those classes, I realized, what, there's a lot more that's here. And my personality, like my Myers-Briggs type, is really that counselor too. I love coaching. I love working with someone to set goals and create a plan and structure a lifestyle that helps them to really feel in charge of their health and their beauty. So that just kind of came together, and that's when I stepped into that role as a coach. But I've always still been a writer, and I still love writing books and articles whenever I can. It's still in there and as a part of what I do.
Ah, well, I love your books. How did the Eat Pretty concept evolve? Where did that, I mean, I assume part of it came from your childhood, it sounds like.
Yeah, a lot of it came from, definitely, the foundation was from the idea that the diet was going to impact your skin. Then as a journalist, I started interviewing experts in Ayurveda, traditional Chinese medicine, genomics, dermatology, nutrition, and in doing these interviews and sort of fact finding realized there's a lot here that we can pull together. A lot of people have knowledge of parts of what's going on. If we can bring it all together, we will have just this great body of information to help us understand our skin from that internal perspective. So that was the impetus for Eat Pretty. And I had a lot that I wanted to put into that book. And I was a first time author. And my publisher said, okay, we need to kind of narrow this down a little bit. Let's make it a little more concise. And so from the time that it was published, I already knew that I wanted to do what essentially became Eat Pretty every day. If Eat Pretty was the approach to your skin and your diet, Eat Pretty every day is just how to do it. Like hundreds of ideas of how to put this into practice in your daily life, which I felt like was so necessary for people. You don't just want to say, do this, you want to show them how and give them ideas of how they can make small adjustments in what they're doing in their daily routine that will really make an impact. So that's where that book came from. And then the journal, Eat Pretty, Live Well, was just tools that I was already using with my clients to kind of help them self-reflect and go on that journey with their nutrition and their self-care. So that was easy to put into a book as well.
Sure. I love Eat Pretty every day. It's one of my, that is always somewhere near my bedside table. And I love it because it feels like I can, whenever I've fallen off, I feel like I can go to where I am in the season and just start over and start feeling just refreshed again and realigned. And I do love, because I'm such a fan of Ayurvedic principles of traditional Chinese medicine. I love that you're pulling those things together, but making them very feminine, making it very approachable. They're such good books. And I think
I'm
they
so glad.
are.
And I will agree only because I do the same thing. I use them in my own life, and that's what I teach as a coach. I mean, that's real life, is just knowing what tools you have to get back to that place of balance. Because over and over again in life, you're going to practice having one thing pull you in one direction or another, getting out of your routine, having a life stressor or a challenge, and just knowing how to recognize that that's happening and then bring yourself back is the reality of like making this a lifestyle, right? Because there's no such thing as a perfect lifestyle. I'm doing the same thing. I'm writing these books for myself as a tool to remind myself how to get back to that place of balance where I do feel my best.
That's really cool. Has anything, just being a first time author and then through all of the books, has anything surprised you as that process has come along?
I love the process. It's so fun. It's really coming from newspapers and magazines where things were so quick to go to print, and then you never close that circle of hearing back. Once in a while you do. Maybe someone reads your piece and they write into you, but with books, it really kind of bowled me over at how I would get messages almost daily from readers just talking about the concept and how interested they were and how it changed their perspective or how they were feeling. It just became more of a dialogue. And you wouldn't think that would happen from a book. You'd think, oh, you write a book and it goes on someone's shelf. But it really became a conversation with so many women around the world, because this book was able to be published in several different languages. And that I never expected.
Oh, that is so cool. Well, the first time I heard of it was in this huge holistic esthetician Facebook group, and I had just typed in books, and overwhelmingly people were like, you have to read. And I was like, okay, well, I better read
That's
it.
amazing. I love knowing that. Sometimes I still hear from people, oh, I went to my esthetician, or I even went to like my hair salon and your book was there. And I love that. I love that it has a place in these wonderful like homes for taking care of ourselves for beauty and self-care. And I love that it can be part of that conversation.
So in the book, or in all of your books, really, I feel like you talk about concepts of like inner beauty, inner light, and then like outer beauty and the connection between them. How do you define that, and how do you, with your clients, work towards that?
Yeah, I think I really started out just being aware of nutrition and lifestyle. And then it took me a few years. It took some challenges in my own life to realize, okay, there's like a next layer of consciousness about beauty, and that is how we feel. That brain body beauty connection is so strong. It's wild when you start to conceive of it. Um, so the book that came after the Eat Pretty books, Ignite Your Light, um, really helps you reflect on the aspects of your life, and I call them the energy influencers in the book that impact that energy of your life. So the energy that you give out, take in, what you carry with you each day. I think the way we experience the world affects everything from our hormones to our blood sugar to the way we break down and assimilate food. It impacts our daily joy and happiness. And we know that that affects the neurotransmitters that we produce. Um, and so all of those things have to be, to me, part of that conversation of how we look and feel. So when I work with clients, it really is like peeling back layers of, yes, I'm looking at a food journal of what you typically eat day to day, but I'm also talking to you about like how you feel when you're eating and what is your day to day work life like? Like, what's your routine in the evening at home? What is your relationship with food as well? So, those conversations come up and you start to kind of peel back the layers and really see the full picture. We like to use that word holistic of like how everything connects. And it usually it blows my mind, like gives me chills to think about meeting a new client and working with them, and then session by session starting to get that full picture of who they are as a person, and then the connection to what's happening in their skin and their body usually becomes so clear. That still amazes me when it happens.
And this goes back to those ancient practices, something that we have known as humans for so long. And
Yes.
our Western culture is finally starting to catch up with that more. What are some of your daily practices, daily habits for connecting that inner light to your outer beauty?
I think I could probably categorize some under mind, some under body, and some under spirit. I think like you have to kind of hit all of them. I mean, I still like, I love caring for my skin because I feel like that is not just a topical practice, it's also caring for my spirit, right? My physical body. So, non negotiable is facial massage with an oil or a balm every day. And there's so much cool science around touch and like touching your skin. I'm sure you know all of this and love it just as much, but what that does for your nervous system and your brain. I'm always trying to have that time where I'm doing facial massage or kind of just like touching my body kindly and caring for my skin. Daily SPF, of course. I really have strict boundaries around when I'm working and when I'm not resting, but like kind of the different roles that I take on. Besides coach, I'm also a mom, and I really prioritize the health of my family. So I take a lot of time out just to make sure that we are eating the food that we want to eat, that the energy of our home is a place where we feel good. That like those things are so important to me as just kind of like the head of that aspect of our family. So those are non-negotiables for me. I'm not working at night. I also just physically, I love that practice of kind of like an overnight fast. So finishing dinner and then trying to do about 12 hours until breakfast. I think that's just so helpful for deeper sleep, for good digestion, for blood sugar. So that's something that I try to share with a lot of my clients as well.
So good. I have a question on that. I think one of the biggest roadblocks I get when I'm talking to people about incorporating massage on a daily basis, and it's such a beautiful, sacred practice in self-love. However, I think that a lot of people, women who are mothers, struggle to make time for that for themselves. How are you able to balance being like a powerhouse plus a mom plus all of your other roles in life and still making that time for that facial massage?
Yeah. I mean, so there's the answer to that direct question, and then there's the overall question of like, how do you have it all? And I think that still fascinates me. And I'm still, even in the work I'm looking to do like this year and beyond, I'm trying to answer that question and be better at helping my clients to answer that question. Because it's not possible to have it all and do it all. And no matter what you're doing, I'm sure it's incredible, but you usually tell yourself it's not enough. But for me, I know that that's one of the things that at the end of the day, just that the ritual of that cleanse and facial massage, it helps me to release the energy I've picked up over the course of the day. It's so essential for me to just like feel cared for, to sleep well, to just release whatever I'm carrying. And somehow that physical practice of massage, of cleansing, becomes that release practice for me. And that could be a different practice for everyone, but just for me, that's the role that it takes on. So it's something that I can't sacrifice and gloss over, you know?
Yeah. Love that imagery of it, like cleansing the day away, cleansing the energy that may have attached to you from people, places, events away.
Yeah.
Going back to food, do you have any favorite foods for skin support, for giving you a good glow up?
Yeah. So, I mean, there's so many, right? Like, that's why the list is so long and Eat Pretty. In that book, I share the acronym CRAFTS. So each letter stands for kind of like a category of food. So, colorful, rich in nutrients, anti inflammatory, fresh, tailored. So, being very personalized to you, and seasonal. And I think if I were going to pick just one of those and pull it out, it would be the seasonality. And I really try to follow that because I think it's just, again, the older I get, the more I realize how much wisdom is there, how much it helps me to stay in balance when the seasons change. You know, some people may not live in an area where they feel that change so intensely, but where I am in the Northeast, we do. And then beyond that, I'm looking at what is easily digested. Sometimes my digestion is my Achilles heel in my nervous system. So I'm always looking at, like right now, the warm cooked foods, the soups. I want to make sure I'm getting lots of probiotic and prebiotic foods. So leafy greens and healthy fats too. I feel like the conversation right now is so focused on protein, which is great. It's that building block of our skin, hair, and nails, but to the point where maybe we're not remembering like how important those omegas, like the healthy fats, are for our skin cell membranes, for our hormones, hormone synthesis. So that's one that I find myself just talking about a little more too.
What are some of your favorite fats, and are there any that you stay away from?
Well, I stay away from some when it comes to like cooking and heating fat. So I'm really careful around cooking with either ghee, or like an avocado oil. And then if I'm making a dressing, it'll be like an extra virgin olive oil. So, you know, kind of just making sure you know which fats are better for heating and not. Um, and then which fats do I love? So, like raw nuts and seeds. I'm obsessed with it. Tahini, everything sesame. Those are my favorites. A lot of the micronutrients in tahini are just ones that I always end up needing, the extra iron, the zinc. So, like, personally, that's one of my favorites.
I've been doing warm water with ghee in the morning. I've been
Wow.
really diving into like Ayurveda and just learning more
Yes.
about it. It's been very fascinating. And I've been so surprised at how my skin has responded to doing this.
Wow.
Well, digestively, it's been super supportive, but then like chapped lips, and my
Mm.
skin hasn't had that dryness that I usually get in the fall.
Wow.
And so I just think you're so spot on with fats. I do think protein is important. It's definitely like focusing on that more has helped, but I do think we're like in the stage of protein where we were with fat a couple of years ago, where everyone, you know, keto and paleo people
Yes,
I was very into were like all the fat all the time, and now
that's true.
it's that with protein. So I think it's interesting how the pendulum just swings and we get very excited
We
about
obsess
one.
over one category and then the next. Do you think we'll obsess over colorful produce and plant fiber next? I'm guessing no, but
Probably not. But
wouldn't that be great?
fiber's not as sexy.
No, but it kind of is when you know how good it is. But yeah, that's the one where everyone's like, but I'm hitting my protein goal. I'm like, well, you don't have any vegetables. So.
Right. Oh, that's amazing. What is continuing to inspire you right now in the world of wellness?
Oh man. Older women really inspire me. They really captivate me. Older women who have chosen to disengage or sometimes disregard society's measures of relevance to essentially go their own way and be all the happier for it. These are the women that I'm watching and taking notes on. I mean, I love watching them prove that the value and the relevance that society kind of bestows upon us has no bearing on our personal happiness and our true worth. And that is just in this conversation around beauty, because we both work in this beauty space. That's so powerful. It's so cool. It's so where I want to be and what I want to age into. And so I'm really captivated by that.
I agree. I think we're so lucky to be like, quote unquote, coming of age in this time where age is being celebrated in a way that I haven't seen before in this industry. And I love bringing it into my work as well. I want to ask about the deck that you came out with. And
Yeah.
so that was different than the books. And I've been using that as well.
How do you like it?
I really like it. I have been getting like on Mondays are my days where I am working at home on admin stuff and on the podcast. And so I will draw a card for the week and I have it displayed on my desk. So I go in every morning and it's just like a little reminder of what I'm thinking about or meant to be thinking about this week. How did you come up with that and what was that process like? And how do you draw that into like the rest of the universe of your work?
I don't even know if I try to draw it in, but I think for the people who respond to it and that they feel the same way that what you've just spoken to. And I use it the same way too. Mondays are my day where I draw a card, take a breath before I jump into the week, because there's like a million things floating around my head that I should do first on Monday morning. I'm drawing that card, I'm taking that moment, I'm thinking about lessons from nature, ways I can take care of my body that week, and I love it. The concept was, it was just all purely fun. My editor said, we want to do a card deck. Maybe do you want to do one about ignite your light? And I started thinking about it. I was like, no, I really want to talk about the lessons that I think nature holds for us if we look closely, like what it models for us as humans. And so it just was a purely fun project that came from that. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. And I think there's more there too. I think I could do more on that topic, but just for now, I'm really happy with the amazing art from Vicky Ling. It just was like, brought it all together and brought it to life.
For those listening who aren't familiar with your deck, how would you describe it? Because I've found that it's different than like an oracle deck, and it's not necessarily like, sometimes we'll have decks of quotes. So it's quite unique.
Yeah, it's not meant to have a mystic element. I think it's purely meant to connect us both to nature and to our bodies a little more ritually. So it's a deck of 52 cards, and you're meant to kind of pull one each week for weekly inspiration. Each card has an element of nature, so smoke, sand, trees, mountains. And on the back of that card is an intention for the week, something connecting that element to your body. And then there's also a guidebook that goes with it. And that guidebook shares some like kind of like an overview of how that element connects to your body and your health. It kind of asks some questions or some reflection there. And then there's a ritual for you to try to practice during the week, along with just trying to connect to that element if you can. Like get out in nature and, be closer to whatever that thing is that week, and think think about the role it plays in your life.
Mm.
And it's called Earth and Body.
My favorite one from the deck is the bark and how you connected it to the skin. And
Right?
for some reason, I pull that one all the time.
Do you? That's funny.
It's a very joyful deck, so I'm
Well, I'm glad you
grateful.
feel that too. One thing that I love is I've heard from a lot of parents that pull cards with their kids, and it kind of is a great jumping off point for a conversation about taking care of your body if your kids are old enough. Just like the things that we do in our daily life that help us to feel nourished, filled up, cared for, and also what knowledge there is out there in nature that we can appreciate.
Oh, that's a great idea. I love that to do that. I wish that I would have had that as a child and how
Right?
important it is to take care of your body. I feel like I'm just now truly learning that as an adult, like doing daily like massage and just,
Yes.
it would be so lovely to have grown up with that and that self-love aspect.
I really agree. And like just growing up, I mean, I was a teenager in the late 90s and early 2000s, and the conversation around self image, around diet culture was just so damaging and it was like the opposite of what we needed at that point in our lives. And it just fascinates me that yes, now as a 43-year-old woman, I'm learning and practicing these things. And why did I not know them earlier? And I think it's because we as a society didn't know or appreciate these things. But these are fundamental pieces of knowledge that our bodies have always had. So at what point did we stop paying attention to them? And what point did we disconnect or unlearn these things? And how long has it taken us to get back to this place where we're finally acknowledging them and learning them again? I think that's all really fascinating.
What does it look like to work with you? Do you have a specific niche that you work with?
Right now, I'm just doing a lot of hormonal health. I mean, my whole niche is around women's health, so I'm only working with female clients. But within that niche, usually people come to me with concerns either that are skin related or energy, hormones, fertility, perimenopause. Just like it's a lot of the I don't feel my best anymore, and I don't know when that changed or how to get back to the person that I remember. So we usually spend a lot of time looking at all those different aspects of life, all those energy influencers, and which ones require more attention and focus. Um, but yeah, hormones are a big part of the conversation these days.
I bet. How do you work with someone who is experiencing maybe hormonal imbalance that is then triggering skin issues? I definitely work with a lot of clients, and I know I have a lot of listeners who are, you know, either approaching 40 or in their mid 40s who are experiencing acne for the first time, things like that.
Yes. Yeah, that's tricky. So you can recognize some of the signs of those that hormonal imbalance and how it's manifesting at that age. Um, and usually it will come hand in hand with something like insomnia or terrible up and down moods or just my brain feels fuzzy. So you can kind of gauge what needs more support. Often it starts out as low progesterone. So we're looking at like just like nourishing your body again. I find a lot of women are depleted, whether it's from pregnancies or just a few decades of like giving of themselves and their careers and taking care of others, and then kind of flipping that back on them and saying like, how do you need to be nourished, in your follicular phase? Like, how are you building up that follicle so that your body can produce enough progesterone? How are you taking care of yourself? What is your stress response like day to day? Are you in that high cortisol sympathetic state all day long? Maybe you were able to sustain that for a while, but maybe you've gotten to the point where your body's not going to do that anymore. So it's really looking at that shift in lifestyle. And that seems to help a lot. And I think, your skin is one of the first places I feel like you see and feel the difference with that hormonal shift.
Yeah. In Well Rested Every Day, you gave ideas for rest and restoration. And I feel like that's so tied to everything you were just speaking about.
Yeah.
What are a few of your favorite practical tips that you have for people to incorporate rest into their
Yeah.
life?
I thought about this when you mentioned your clients having difficulty incorporating facial massage, because I think my clients have difficulty incorporating a lot of these ideas around rest, um, and some of it is just that we don't prioritize it, right? We don't value it. Some of my favorites are simple things. So a parasympathetic pause before a meal. It's kind of what I call it. Just pausing to activate your senses, to shift your body into that parasympathetic mode where you can digest better. You're diverting blood flow to your digestive tract. It's like you're bringing yourself into this presence with the food that you're about to eat. It's such a small shift, and like it takes a minute or something, but it's so powerful. That's one that I have to practice all the time because I'm like the worst offender at just eating so quickly. But that one really makes a difference. It has a huge impact on your stomach acid and your pancreatic enzyme secretion in that cephalic phase of digestion before you start eating. So that's such like a simple one. Yoga Nidra is another favorite that takes a little more time, but that's just a great practice to lean into. Anything that's going to help you bring your mind into that place of like safety and calm, and just send your nervous system the message that you're well. That's really powerful. I think like being in nature, taking a walk in nature is like my top, right? My top rest practice. And also just space, right? Like a pause. It can be a pause in between activities, or it can be a dedicated time each day where you are just pausing and there's nothing going on. And this is when that default mode network of your brain is actually able to turn on. When everything else, all the other busyness quiets, your default mode network turns on, and it helps you to process information and then create new insights from the information that you've taken in. And I'm more guilty of this than anyone, but just like taking in constantly all day and never processing and having that like internalize. So when you have that space, that's when you get those new insights, you make new connections. That's why when you're in the shower, you get these amazing epiphanies, right? When you're taking a walk and you're actually not doing anything, you get great ideas. And so trying to build more of that into your day, that's a great rest practice.
Ooh, I call that scheduling white space.
Yes, white space. That's a great way to say it.
You said so many good things that I wanted to touch on the slowing down when you're eating. I think I'm so glad you mentioned that. I am horrible at it, and I've been really trying to change my ways because I just eat so fast and I don't think about it, and I'm on my phone, and there's
Right.
just all of this energy happening outside of eating. And do you have any like specific practices when you're doing that, when you're actually there with your plate, and maybe with your family as well, that help you to remember to actually slow down and chew your food and actually digest?
Yeah. I think it helps that growing up, I was always part of a family that said a prayer over the start of your meal. So I still have that reflex of like, this is what we do to start a meal. And it can be a mantra, it can just be a moment. But now that I know how powerful activating your senses is, that I like to just kind of sit there and like just look at my food for a second and celebrate it in my mind. It sounds so silly, but this is really what you want to do, is just like look at this beautiful food that you're about to take into your body, the colors, like feel yourself start to salivate, the textures, just activate all of your senses and have 1 minute where you just like sink into how good it is. And that's what your body needs before you dive in. And it really doesn't have to be long, and it can look in any way you like. You can take time to light candles and dim the lights and create a whole energy around your plate too. But it really is just that the moment to pause and to shift over to being calm and activate your senses that does the magic.
Mm, that's currently one of my favorite free versions of skincare because it's
Yes.
so important for your skin. The next thing you mentioned was yoga nidra. Do you have a specific favorite yoga nidra that you like to listen to?
I have a bunch. I feel like I save all kinds of yoga nidras on Insight Timer. That's my favorite app. It just has so many cool things. Binaural beats audio that I love, and guided meditations. There's great yoga nidras on there. In my book, Well Rested Every Day, I recorded 4 yoga nidras because before I wrote this book, I think about 6 years ago now, I became certified as a yoga nidra practitioner because it was something that was just so powerful for me and I wanted to be able to share it. And so often when I do my corporate classes and I'm teaching a big group, especially if the session is related to rest or mental health, I'll close with a yoga nidra. And I think that's a really cool way to just like have something experiential, you know. So yeah, I have so many, but if you want to try some of like my favorite styles, there's 4 in the book. And what you do is just hold your phone up to the QR code in the book and then it takes you to the audio. So you can listen to it whenever you want.
I did not know that. I'm going to do that tonight. Can you
Yeah.
explain what yoga nidra is for anyone
Yes.
who's never heard of it?
Totally. It's not yoga, although it sort of comes from that tradition. So yoga nidra is a practice of getting your brain and your body into what's called a hypnagogic state, which is the place between being awake and being asleep. It's a place that you kind of fall through every night on your way, kind of falling asleep. But when you get into yoga nidra, which is kind of like, it's almost like a guided meditation, it brings your body into this hypnagogic state and you prolong your time there. And it's a really healing place for your body. It's where people say that you can access your subconscious to promote healing, to calm yourself, to bring yourself into a place where you might be falling asleep more easily. So for someone who has insomnia or has a racing mind at bedtime, it's a great practice. But for most of us, it's just a wonderful way to lower cortisol, to bring your body into a place that feels wonderful, safe, happy, restful. And being in that hypnagogic state is also like deeply restful for your body. So it's a way to kind of sneak in extra rest if you need it during the day.
Do you practice this only before bed, or like could someone on their lunch break? Would that feel weird to do that on your lunch break?
No, I actually really like it during the day. I like it better during the day. Not every day, not every week, but there's, you can tell when you need it, when you're having one of those weeks. And if you can take, 20 minutes out on your lunch break and have a place where you can recline and lay back. I've done it for people who can like kind of lay back in their chair and put their feet up on their desk too, but it's really nice if you can actually lay down. You might fall asleep, so you can set an alarm, but if you fall asleep, that doesn't mean that you've missed the benefits. There's still benefits to that. But I think it's a great midday practice. And if you don't have 20 minutes, if that's not realistic, there are lots of other practices that help you to lower your cortisol during the workday too. I definitely recommend those.
Thank you. That's really helpful. I'm glad that you mentioned Insight Timer as well. I love that app. I think it's such an amazing resource.
It's so good.
Mm-hmm. And I love that it's free. There is
I know, it's amazing.
Yes. What's next for you? Do you have any projects coming up? Anything in the future that you're excited about?
Yeah, that's been a big question for me this year, is trying to figure out what's next. I feel like I had that come up for me after I finished the Eat Pretty books. Like, okay, like I'm at this crossroads. Like, where am I going next? And I sort of felt that this year as well. I've always been focused on women's health as a coach. And I think one of my goals going into 2025 is to really support women-owned businesses. And that's kind of grown out of my own experience, again, juggling motherhood and fully showing up to that role for my family's nutrition and health while also running a business and also taking care of myself. And that like the idea of like having it all versus what life really looks like and how you can be healthy and try to prioritize what is most meaningful for you and your family's health. So that's the long answer, but I'm focused on helping women develop smart systems that enable them to take care of themselves and their families, and just empowering them to do that. So that looks like corporate wellness coaching, but working more closely with female owned businesses to do that.
That's so cool. Ah, I love that. I've watched you from afar, obviously, but I've just loved everything you've done has become more expansive and more bright and shiny. And just looking at Eat Pretty, which I love, but then looking at Ignite Your Light. And that book was just, oh, it is such a soul book.
It
And
is.
I'm just really excited to see where you go next.
Thank you
I
for
love
appreciating
the
it and for seeing that. I think all we want as humans is to be seen, and that just makes me that just fills me up to know that you've received those things that also meant so much to me to be able to create. Ignite Your Light came from chronic illness in my life and that derailment of what I thought my life was going to look like. So that was such a deep spiritual book for me, a cathartic book for me to write. Um, and I'm so grateful that you've seen what that book was too. Thank you.
I hope that everyone listening goes and gets that book because it's so powerful and it really changed a lot of things for me. From that book, really quickly, I want to respect your time, but I do want to just dive into that book as we brought it up.
Yeah.
Um, what is your biggest takeaway from that book? What do you hope that people take away from that book?
I think the biggest takeaway is that the way you feel has its own special power over your health and your beauty. That so often we're looking for panacea in a supplement or a food or a skincare regimen, and we're forgetting to even to look back inside and reflect on how we feel in our day-to-day life. So that book looks at things like your relationships, your creative practices, your spirituality, the energy of your home, the music and sound in your life, like the things that if you I'll use the word optimize, but if you're turning these on and optimizing them for yourself, how much they can add to your experience of joy, of resilience, of kind of strengthening your health and beauty, and looking at that bigger picture.
Yeah. I'm really into vitality right now, and I
Yeah,
just
vitality, that's a great word.
that's it. That's if you want to cultivate vitality, looking at all of those things. And I think that book was these are ancient knowledge
Yeah,
moments,
again.
but I also think it was ahead of its time. I think that that's kind of like the next wave of Instagram wellness people are hopefully going to be talking about that more, but I think that's kind of
I
like
hope
the
so.
next thing. Yeah.
It's hard, I think, on social media to take that step back and look at the big picture, because what do you have, 30 seconds to get a little tidbit on, you're going close up on something. So it's really powerful whenever you can look at the big picture of your life with something like, what are the constellation of things that affect my skin, or that bring me happiness, or that help me to have a life well lived, and those are the big thoughts, the human experience, reflecting on that.
Totally. Mm. If someone's listening and they've fallen in love with you as much as I have, how can they work with you?
Yeah. So via my website, jolenehart.com, or on Instagram, I'm just at Jolene Hart on Instagram. You can schedule a 15-minute consultation, which is free. And we just kind of chat and decide if we're a good fit to work together, kind of talk about goals and move forward from there. I work either in a one-time, 1 hour session, which you take away a 4-week plan for implementing ideas on your own, or I do a 3-month program where we meet for an hour twice a month and kind of dive into more focused topics, like a whole hour on hormones and a whole hour on digestion, and kind of go topic by topic into that whole well-rounded picture. So if that interests any of your listeners, yes, definitely online or on social media.
Amazing. I also have many estheticians who listen. And if you are an esthetician and you're listening right now, I highly recommend picking up all of Jolene's books because they're so good. They've been very helpful for me in my practice, just understanding, the deeper things that are deeper than just skincare products. So
And
thank
you just
you.
continue to take that further. I love everything that you do on social media. I'm like, can't like you and heart your posts enough when I see them. I think you're brilliant. And I love how you've brought it all together for your clients and your practice. It's just a real honor to be able to chat with you.
I agree. Thank you so much, Jolene. I likewise, and thank you again.
You've been listening to the Skin, Earth, Vitality podcast. If you like what you heard today, consider giving me a 5-star rating. It helps other people just like you to find the show. You can shop products and find all of my offerings on my website, stratumaesthetics.com, and follow me on my social channels at Stratum Aesthetics.